Hi everyone, my name is Usha Chudasama. I'm a child and adult psychotherapist and parent coach, and I'm on a mission to empower parents to raise happy children through preventative mental health techniques. As schools are open again, have you ever worried about the mental health impact on your children, especially post COVID? Do you know that there's a connection between what we've experienced during lockdown and our mental health? Are you aware that there is a solution that every one of us can easily do to prevent this from happening to our children? Now, in my talk today, I'm going to tell you how you can protect your children's mental health post COVID. So now, as schools are open, it's easy to get back into a routine and forget about the feelings of sheer frustration that we felt, of what we went through being trapped in lockdown. Remember all those times when you were trying to juggle everything from homeschooling, running your house, and working from home, protecting your kids from the news, and maybe you had losses or suffered grief. Now, I've heard from so many parents who were so upset and they're still struggling from having to spin so many plates and dealing with children's frustrations from being forced to stay at home. Now, my friends and family and colleagues have shared worrying similar stories, highlighting their concerns about how this pandemic may affect their children's lives in the coming years. Now, what concerns my profession and me as a psychotherapist, an individual, is that we anticipate a rise in mental health cases over the next few months and years. In fact, in the last couple of weeks, I've had definitely more inquiries. You see, research tells us that although we have great evidence on what children need, there are still difficulties in accessing help and support, especially when there's a 10-year delay between young people experiencing their first symptoms, i.e., 2020, and receiving help, which could be 2030. Oh, it's a bird singing. How old will your children be in 10 years' time? Here is a slide from the research that I was talking to you about. It's from the Center for Mental Health 2016. Who knows what's going to happen in 10 years' time? If your child is 10 years old during lockdown when they showed signs of stress, i.e., anger or withdrawal, or they were anxious, or they were, getting nightmares, or, not getting enough sleep, then according to this research, there could be an average of 10 years before they can display any outward symptoms or access any help. So that could be about age 20. So this is a time when they're going to university and they might be too embarrassed to go to therapy, for example. We know that there is a certain percentage of uni students who find uni life really hard due to anxiety. Now, what if in 10 years' time, parents don't want to put them on a waiting list, or the waiting list is too long, or they don't have the funds to pay for the additional support or therapy? What if the child is so depressed that they don't even want to get any help? And how long will it be before they feel convinced enough to take some support? Another 5 years, another 10 years? So that's like taking them to 25 and 30. So they could be suffering for many years and then end up in my therapy room. And in the future, you will find it difficult to connect it to the pandemic. So adults do find it hard to know what's going on in their life or why their life isn't working to what happened in their childhood. If you try to avoid dealing with the stress now, then this actually stops children from being resilient. And you are modeling a behavior that they will end up using as well to brush, i.e., to brush things under the carpet or be in denial. And so, what I'm trying to do is prevent the mental health issues from surfacing and creating strong, positive memories that builds resilience and inner resources in the first place. So, that is all about building legacy now. So, legacy now isn't about leaving an inheritance, it's about instilling strong values in the children now. And I'm going to talk to you more about the campaign, but first, I want to introduce you to my daughter, and so that she can talk about it as an adult and how the strong values have kind of seeped through so that she's been able to use different coping strategies as a result. So here we go. At this point, I want to bring in my daughter Lena, and I'll let her introduce herself to you.
Hi everyone, my name's Lena. In my day job, I train salespeople. I work in a company, and on the side, I work with Mum on our business.
Thank you. And so, how did you feel during lockdown?
Yeah, so lockdown started obviously back in March, and we were sent home and they said to us, work from home. It'll be for 2 weeks, and obviously we didn't know that would keep getting extended. But initially, it was kind of exciting because we were like, oh, we don't have to commute. We can stay at home. This will be really cool. So that's how it was at the very beginning.
Yeah, I remember that.
And you were excited, weren't you, that I was going to be at
I
home?
was so excited that she was at home because I work from home and it was nice to have her home.
Yeah, exactly. But then obviously it kept getting extended. It was like another month, and now it's till the end of 2020, and who knows, it might be extended further. So then there was a kind of feeling of uncertainty, not knowing when we're going to go back to normal. So it's hard to kind of cope with the uncertainty because you're not sure how far ahead you can plan and what you can do with your time, I suppose.
But how did you feel when you were in that uncertain mode?
Just a bit like stuck, like trapped, not sure like where to go, or like, you know, not being able to kind of do what we would normally do.
But how did you deal with that inside of yourself when you felt trapped?
So when I felt trapped, I would do things like go out into nature, for example, or just leave the house, because I think after a while those four walls just get a bit too much. So even just walking around the local streets, or like, remember when we discovered different parts of Epping Forest?
I know, it was so lovely. It was really lovely.
Yeah, we live really close to the forest and we've never explored it before, but this gave us the opportunity to do that. So that helped with the feelings of being trapped.
And also your trips abroad got cancelled, didn't they, as well?
Yeah, of course, international travel was cancelled, so I was meant to go on 3, maybe even 4 business trips this year.
Yeah.
And obviously everything was cancelled. We're doing everything over Zoom instead.
Yeah. But if you think about what you've just been through as an adult, okay, imagine the same things happening for a child.
Yeah.
All right. So, for example, you said you felt excited. Children felt excited when they didn't have to go to school at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, they felt, oh, this is like an extended holiday. And it did. It felt like an extended holiday up to a point.
Yeah.
And then there was that uncertainty. So, you know, having to watch the news and children, you know, I did get a lot of reports actually from parents who talked about their children getting so anxious watching the news, and it was really affecting their mental health. And also you said about the isolation and travel plans getting cancelled. So, you know, like families didn't get their holidays, you know, the holidays that they planned, they didn't get a chance to do that. And then feeling trapped. I mean, it's like a child in a cage. Or if you imagine an animal in a cage, like a lion walking up and down, you know, the lion cage, that was like what children felt like. But as an adult, you know, what coping strategies did you use to get out of those feelings of being trapped, or loneliness, or you know, not feeling happy in yourself? What did you use?
So there's a few different things that I did. So one thing that's important to me anyway is exercise, like physical activity. So before I would go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week. Obviously it closed and they moved to online classes. So I made sure that I attended regularly as I would have done in sort of real life. So just having that sort of routine and making sure I keep my body moving and that I'm strong, keeping my immune system up. Obviously in a time of a pandemic like this, that's really important.
Yes.
So that's one thing I used to cope and just make sure that I carried on some sort of routine.
Yeah, I think that's really important, the physical activity. Now with children, with young children, and these are the reports I've been getting and also reading online, is that, you know, we were only allowed 1 hour or one
walk a day
at
or something.
the time was and that got extended later. But even that walk just to the local park was amazing for certain children, but then other children got bored, actually. They got bored of the same routine.
Mm.
They got, so that created another kind of a problem, because then the boredom led to parents not knowing what to do to,
To entertain them.
entertain the
Yeah.
children. And what that led to is an unhelpful coping strategy, like, for example, being on the computer for too long, extended time on the computer, and watching TV for too long, um, or then aggression and anger. But those are the negative coping strategies. But yours is a positive one, which is
Mm.
going out into nature. What are some of the other things that you did?
Yeah, so going out into nature was another one. So just like I said, like doing different walks, finding new places that we hadn't discovered that are like 5 minutes from our house.
Yeah.
So that was a really fun one.
And I guess being an adult, you can make that choice
Yeah,
to go further than the boundaries that you normally would,
yeah.
whereas children can't do that.
No, you have to
So
be with a
then,
responsible adult.
exactly.
Yeah,
So, they would be frustrated, you know.
yeah, because they're
So
limited by the time their parents have to take them out as
the,
well.
exactly, and the parents were homeschooling. They were, dealing with other children. Maybe they might have been dealing with job losses, or all of these other
Mm,
stressors.
yeah.
So yeah, and that's a really important thing to be aware of. So what were your other things? That were you going to say anything else?
Yeah, so one other thing was just for the isolation and feeling like
Yes.
not having that social life anymore. So I found it important to keep in touch with friends. So I made a bit of extra effort to make sure I spoke to all of my good friends on WhatsApp and on Zoom,
Yeah.
and make sure that we stay connected, just so that, for both of us to make sure that we actually do have social contact, because we can't meet in real life. So that was at least something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what about your friends and other colleagues? How did they cope? I mean, what kind
Yeah.
of stories did you hear from them?
Yeah, I mean, there was a mixture of things, really. Some things were, similar to me. Some people were like doing, Instagram videos and, watching fitness videos and doing that at home and things like that. Lots of people were going for walks. But then there was the other side of things, where a lot of my friends and colleagues were talking about, drinking every night. And there's loads of memes about it. And it made it sort of normal. Like, oh, we're in lockdown, so we just drink every night. Like, what day of the week even is it?
Yeah.
So I heard about that quite a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, what you're saying is that as an adult, you were using positive coping strategies,
Hmm.
but some of your friends were beginning to use negative or unhelpful coping strategies. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, which and this is a really big point here, because when we create these good positive experiences when the children are young, they're able to use positive experiences to manage and to cope and to be resilient, and to to be able to live their life without brushing things under the carpet. So that's a really important point, because I mean, how would you say you had good coping strategies? Where did that come from, do you think?
Well, I think a lot of this kind of stuff you learn, don't you, from your family, from your parents. So when I was little, um, we spent time together, and I don't know, I guess showed me some things on purpose, and some things I just sort of learnt from you
Yeah.
in how you cope with things, or how dad copes with things.
I was actually very intentional with how I did things with her, because I mean, I knew when she was young that
Yeah.
playing with her was a very, 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 very important thing to have in our life, because playing for children is actually their work. That's how they learn.
Mm.
That's how they learn. So working, I mean, playing is work for children. That's where they learn everything. I think that labored that point a bit.
Yeah. But yeah, play is important,
Yeah.
basically. So I think that's one way that we can learn
Yeah.
about different coping strategies.
Exactly. And playing with our children actually is what my campaign is all about. And this is, because children are not always able to verbalize how stressed they feel to parents. And we need, as parents, we need to look out for these unhelpful or unhealthy coping mechanisms in our children. So with younger children, for example, it might be having meltdowns, which is
Mm.
what that woman, what that parent um, said to me. That he was having meltdowns and taking out anger on everyone else, which was creating a lot of um, problems for the whole family.
Mm.
You know, for example, young children could. These are examples of things that they might show in the next month or coming years. So be aware of these things. So like maybe withdrawing, or having tummy aches or headaches, or aches and pains, because aches and pains could depict things like depression and worrying, excessive worrying about what life is going to be like when they get back to school. Are they worried about germs? Those kind of things are
Mm.
really important. Oh, nightmares is another one. These are kind of things that are symptoms of their stress. So be aware of them. I mean, older ones, for example,
Yeah.
um,
They might have similar issues, but then additional things like they've got access maybe to smoking, drink, drugs more than the younger kids as well.
exactly. And spending too much time on technology, that could be for adults and children, you know.
Yeah.
So we need to be, as parents, we need to really be aware of those things. So when you notice these things in yourself, you know, steer clear, sort of steer towards coping mechanisms and model these in your children. So, for example, the kinds of things that Lena was talking about earlier, going outdoors and taking time for self care, eating well, being physically active, reading,
Mm.
doing things like that is so important. An example of something a parent can do is, say, for example, they've come back from a work Zoom call, and all day, you've spent 6 hours or 8 hours on well, hopefully not 8 hours, but a long time.
Mm.
An example of good modeling could be that you come down and say, "Wow, what a long day that's been. Who wants to go on a walk around the block with me, or who wants to play a game?" You
Because that
know?
shows it's like a positive way to deal with that stress of the day rather than being like, oh, someone get me a glass of wine.
Yeah, exactly. Because we can regulate our emotions in so many, in unhelpful ways and helpful ways. But wouldn't it be better if our children learn the good ways, and then they are able to then, as the adult, are able to use the coping strategies when you, the parent, aren't in their life later. So I've created this campaign to give parents the opportunity to make daily time to play with their children and leave a legacy inside of them. It's about having those strong resources, the strong values, and I was pretty determined, wasn't I?
Mm-hmm.
I was quite persistent with Lena, and I was consistent as well, that we had daily play
Mm.
activities. I mean, we used to read every day. We used to read every day, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was our time to sit in with a book and cuddle up and talk about the characters and talk about the reading and talk about anything that may have come up that day. But that was our daily time. That's what we did. But, you know, for this campaign, we're going to actually come up with lots of different activities, aren't we?
Yeah. We've got 24 ideas in a campaign resource pack that you guys can download for free. And we're also sharing every day on our social media lots of different ideas on top of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's targeted not just not just
No.
for parents, because this campaign isn't. It's not to benefit us. It's actually to benefit children and prevent mental health issues from happening in the future. So it's really targeted at parents, grandparents who actually did miss their grandchildren. It's also for aunts and uncles and carers and guardians and foster carers and teachers. Well, basically, it's for anyone who takes care of children.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? I'm also looking for people who generally advocate positive mental health, because you don't actually have to be a parent. Lena isn't a parent yet, but she advocates for positive mental health because she uses all of the strategies in her workplace. Like she teaches, you tell us about the mindfulness.
Yeah, no, well, we do like a weekly meditation session at work. So I just kind of lead that each week. I think that's really important. And like, our company advocates for a lot of good mental health initiatives as well. So yeah, I do think it's really important, and
Yeah.
the earlier you can learn this and take it in and make it sort of part of your regular day to day, the better. So I think it's really important to promote this with children as soon as possible.
As soon as possible. How does this campaign work? So, do you want to tell us?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, as we said, the campaign is called Legacy Now, and it's easy as 1, 2, 3 to get started. So, number one, you download your campaign resource pack.
Yes.
We will add the link just below.
Yeah.
And like I said, that contains the 24 ideas of what you can do with your child.
Plus, we're going to do the daily activity, so that's in addition. So, number 2 is
to spend 15 minutes of quality time with your child. So you can play together, you can paint a picture, you can go for a walk, or one of the other things that we suggested.
bugs
Yeah,
in the garden.
examine the bugs, like whatever you want to do.
Talk about your memories.
And while you're doing it, take a photo, because number 3 is post a picture to social media and comment about how you spent your time and use the hashtag #LegacyNow. So it can be a picture of you and your child, or just your child, or maybe a picture of the activity you're doing,
or just a comment to say you support the campaign.
You can also do a comment. So if you're one of the people who doesn't have a child but you want to support, then you can always just say that you support positive mental health, and then just put a hashtag #LegacyNow.
Yeah. And here are some examples. So there are some examples to show you.
Yeah, so we'll show the examples now. Just to summarize, so step 1 is download your campaign resource pack. Step 2 is spend 15 minutes playing with your child. And step 3 is to post a picture to social media with the hashtag #LegacyNow.
And please like and share and get involved in this campaign. And I'm looking forward to sharing this journey with you and reaching at least 1,000 parents with this message. So I have been Usha Chudasama.
And I'm Lena Chudasama.
And thank you so much for listening to our talk about how you can protect your children's mental health post-COVID.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.